Chapter 31. Well, I guess it had to happen one day, now that I think back on it. It was at the VFW playing a popular country song on the piano while the rest of them sang. I didn't particularly like country music, but that's what some of them liked. Ellis, one of the very few black people that lived in Whitmire, was enthusiastically singing along. It was a curiosity that he loved country music, but he had told me that the only radio station that his family lived close enough to receive when he was a kid was a country station. There was no hip-hop or traditional black music, so he had grown up liking country music. I really liked Ellis. He accepted my cussing, and he thought I was great. He taught me to cheat at poker, and he liked to hear my point of view on different subjects. He was a very engaging man, about 50 or so, and everyone loved him. It caught me by surprise when I heard a few gasps and looked up in time to see Ellis drop to the floor. "I think he's having a heart attack," I heard someone cry out. "Call an ambulance." "Stay calm, save him," a calm voice in my head told me. I jerked out of my deer-in-the-headlights state and pushed past the people standing over him. They looked bewildered as I knelt down by Ellis and put one hand on his forehead and one hand on his chest. "What are you doing?" several of them asked. I shook my head for them to shut up and concentrated on Ellis. Someone pushed me away and started CPR, so I moved off to the side and grasped his arm with both hands. I felt the healing energy flow through me stronger than it ever had, and I looked up suddenly to see Jesus in the middle of a fog. In an instant, he was gone, but I also knew that Ellis would be all right. The person doing CPR stopped as Ellis sputtered back to life. The ambulance crew arrived a moment later, and I let go of him. They packed up and took him to the hospital. After they'd left, some of the people were telling me that it was nice that I tried to help him, but I shouldn't have gotten in the way. It angered me, but I felt like I should just agree with it, so I did. Ellis stayed in the hospital for a few days, then was back at the VFW 2 weeks later. He was telling everyone that I had saved him. He swore that he had died and hovered over his body until I touched him, and then he came back. I didn't know if I had or not. The person doing CPR could have brought him back. He asked me privately if I would help his sister who had cancer. I told him that I would have to have some excuse to go over there, or my dad would never let me go. I told him his best bet was to talk to Nancy. So it just happened that a week later, Nancy was going over to Ellis's sister's house to drop off a card and flowers from the congregation to cheer her. Ellis occupied Nancy in another room for me while I talked to his sister Stella. She was really ill, and I wondered if I could do anything for her. Once again, I saw Jesus as I had my hands on her. Ellis thanked us for visiting, and we left. Stella did get better. She had been in the early stages of cancer, and now the doctors couldn't find a trace of it. The voices had said that an essential oil called frankincense would kill cancer cells, and that she should buy it and put a drop or two on the bottoms of her feet 3 times a day. Word got around to the people that attended the VFW, and now they all realized that they had gotten healthier. Ellis had made the mistake of telling everyone that I had healed them. When I walked into the house a few days later, after being out in the field with Yellow, I realized that Daddy knew too. "I think you all are just imagining things. My daughter is just a little girl. She's not a messiah," I heard him say into the phone. The conversation didn't get much better, so I went to the living room and turned on the TV. My dad appeared about 10 minutes later. "What have you done?" he asked me. "People are claiming that you healed them." "Oh, yeah, I did," I replied in an unconcerned voice, hoping the conversation would end. The Discovery Channel was exploring Alaska, and it was interesting. "How do you know you healed them?" Crap. I really didn't want to have this conversation, and I wondered if I moved to Alaska if this meddling of everyone would follow me there. Maybe if we lived in a bigger town, people wouldn't make such a big deal over me. Maybe they wouldn't have ever found out that I had healed them. I'd healed a lot of people in the past years that no one knew about. I jerked as my dad nudged me. "Shut the TV off," he ordered, so I did. "Well, what do you think I did to Stupid Boy when he was suicidal? I healed him," I replied back as I placed the remote on the coffee table. I wasn't sure that you did anything except sit on his lap and talk to him. We got into this very long conversation about everything that had happened. Dad was still unconvinced that I could heal people. "You shouldn't be playing God," he told me. "I'm not. I'm just a vessel for healing. That's what I'm being told," I corrected him. "Well, this moment it stops," he told me sternly. Our house got a lot of phone calls in the next few weeks of people wanting to be healed. The church where I had been playing piano a few months ago wanted me more than ever to attend. All of this drove my dad nuts. Then the kids at school were teasing me, although some of them wanted healings for other people too. Most of those kids had hated on me, and now they wanted me to do something for them. I told the haters that I didn't know what they were talking about. But there were kids I did help in secret, although I wondered why I was doing it. Although none of them had ever taunted me, they hadn't made an effort to be my friend either. The voices in my head told me to let that go. And the thing is, sometimes the process didn't work. I asked why I should even attempt to heal people if it wasn't going to cure them. The voices said that the process wasn't always healing that was obvious. Sometimes it healed in subtle ways. Nope, I didn't understand. "It is not your place to understand," was the answer. It took months before people quit asking for healing, but it was obvious that they would never forget that I had that ability. It was also now few and far between that my dad let me go to the VFW to play with the old people. Every time someone there asked for healing, I'd have to tell them that Daddy had told me to stop, and that anything I did at the VFW had to stay there, or else I'd be in a lot of trouble at home. So instead of playing the piano or guitar, I usually ended up giving healings to people because it felt like the right thing to do, regardless of how messed up my dad and Bob were about it. Then Daddy hurt his back, and it landed him in bed, which left him unable to work on the ranch. If he wasn't working, then he wasn't making any money to support us. I could have secretly healed him, but I was so tired of him not believing in me that I minded my own business. Nancy and Bob were coming over to the house, taking care of him and getting some of his ranch work done. I helped out too. On the 4th day of Daddy being bedridden, I had fixed us a plate of the food that Nancy had brought over, and we ate in his bedroom. Bob called as we finished eating, and I took the plates to the kitchen and washed them as Daddy talked to him. When I went back with a glass of juice, he wanted to talk. "It's hard for me to admit this," he told me as I gave them a glass, "but I want you to try and heal me. If I can't walk, then we'll eventually lose the ranch." "But you don't believe," I replied. Yeah, I was giving him a hard time now. "Make me a believer." I did a healing on him that night, and then the next morning. He was sitting in the living room when I came home from school that afternoon. 2 more healings, and he was almost as good as new. The kicker was that even though I'd healed him, I knew that he still didn't believe. He also didn't talk about how he had recovered.